that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 430th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey.
Getting there.
And the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Boy, we start this show every week the same way, don't we? Every day, I go to the internet, I look for news on energy and climate change. What I find, I put up at my blog, geoharvey.com. You can visit the blog. And I post articles, each a synopsis with a link to the original, and I'll put together 10 or 15 of these every day, usually 15 actually, and post them at the blog so people can go there and find out what's going on in the world in energy and climate change. I don't get everything, but I try to get the most important things. And every week, Tom and I take the 20 or 21 of these that are the best 3 a day usually.
Yeah, it works out to that.
Them, yeah, and talk about them on the show. the show, when you look at it on YouTube or BCTV or wherever you are, should have a place that you can download the script that Tom and I use to keep us on track of we should be talking about, and also you can actually go to the location on the web where that script is maintained. I guess that's all I've got to say for this. You have something to say.
Yeah,
you always do.
Well, there we go.
There.
I keep pushing this button and nothing was happening.
Well, you know, it's the way computers are.
Yeah.
I was the person who discovered artificial intelligence when I was a computer engineer. Yeah, it was a long time ago though. It was when DOS was still new. This is like
when you had artificial stupidity.
Oh no, it was artificial malice was what I found. You got to be somewhat intelligent to have malice, and boy, those programs that had malice. Okay.
Well, what you're talking about is that you're blogging and stuff like that, and I just wanted to interject that some of these are almost mandatory.
Yeah.
They're so full of information.
And actually, the first one is almost mandatory.
Well, the first one's a very good one, if you don't want to call it almost mandatory.
Yeah, I'm going to put the slide up for that, which people are going to have difficulty seeing on television unless you switch it over. And we're starting on the 29th of July, so if you go to any of the sources that I've cited, including geoharvey.com, you can go.
Well, you can play with this one because there's a lot of meat in it. It's called Electrical Generation by Source.
Yes, and you need to put that image up, Tom.
You think I should put that up?
I think you should. There you go.
As they say in Flatbush, wouldn't wait.
Wouldn't wait. Okay, this is from Clean Technica. In 2020, renewable energy sources generated a record 834 terawatt hours of electricity, which, as I recall, is about 120 times as much as the state of Vermont needs.
Well, gigawatts is gigawatts,
That's
and
right.
terawatts is bigger than gigawatts.
That's right, 1,000 times. Now, that is about 21% of all U.S. electricity. Only natural gas produced more electricity than renewables. Renewable sources passed both nuclear.
Produced twice as much.
Yeah, both nuclear and coal for the first time on record. And what I want to do is I want to talk about this graph because between 1950...
There's a lot of meat there.
Yeah, and 2000, you can see that generation from coal just went up and up and up until it was over 2,000 billion kilowatt hours. And then it kind of started to crash.
Well, you can't make money on coal anymore.
That's right. And really, you know, at the time...
It's as simple as that.
It sure is. At the time, there were people who were, that this started going down. Not exactly when it started going down, but the time when people started seeing that this was going down fast, they blamed the President of the United States, who happened to be Barack Obama. But the real crash started in the previous presidency. It was under George W. Bush. And,
Okay.
And so, you know, I mean, the peak was in 2008, and it just went down.
Well, it's interesting to see how fast that coal is going down.
Yep.
And also how fast natural gas is going. And
But
you had something to
I
say
did.
about that.
When I looked at this, I thought, I wonder how much longer natural gas is going to be acting like that, going up.
Most of that's from fracking.
A lot of it is from fracking, and a lot of the reason it went up is that when the coal plants were closing, a lot of them were being converted to natural gas, so the demand for natural gas was increasing.
Seemed to be a logical step.
Yep, but about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I remember when this happened, you and I started talking on the show about how General Electric was saying that it was running into trouble because it had planned for, it had geared up.
They weren't buying their machines.
Yeah, it had geared up for making natural gas turbines, and nobody was buying them. And that was regardless of whether they were combustion turbines or steam turbines. And Wärtsilä said the same thing. Worldwide, nobody was buying gas turbines. What that means is, sometime, a couple of years down the road, they're going to stop having new natural gas power plants. And by golly, that has happened.
Well, I was listening to stuff like this on the radio today, on Vermont Public Radio.
Yeah.
And basically, the idea of paying for your fuel is going out the window.
Yes, well.
The sun shines, the rain,
shines,
the wind
that's
blows.
Right. I had an item which I don't think we're going to be talking about next week, but today there was an item that came up in the geoharvey.com blog about blocks of waste material that had been put together, and they were really, really, really good at storing heat. So they're building these blocks and using them for storing heat. And they're good enough at storing heat that you can put really high temperatures in there. And then you can use that for making steam,
electricity.
to make electricity. But what I want to call people's attention to here is the natural gas line, which is the highest line when you go all the way to the right. That is, that's natural gas generation. But additions to the grid of new natural gas plants has crashed. This year, in the first 5 months, only 500 megawatts went online, which sounds like a lot.
It's a half a gigawatt.
But we're talking about the whole country. This is for the.
We're not talking about a lot for each part of the country.
That's right. And what has happened is that last year it was 6,500 megawatts. This year it's 500 megawatts. And the 6,500 was kind of typical of the years before that. The natural gas additions are down 92% from what they were a year ago in the first 5 months of 2020. And the orders for new turbines have not picked up. So we're going to have natural gas plants being retired, and we're not going to have new natural gas plants being added. And I really think that we might end this year, which will be the first time it's happened, with less natural gas capacity than we started it with.
I think if it doesn't happen this year, it's going to happen next year.
You know,
it's happening. I mean,
you mean that they're being replaced?
Yeah. It no longer makes sense. You can't make a profit with coal. And
now
very soon
you
won't be able to make a profit with
natural gas.
Natural gas.
That's right. In fact, that time has already come, as we will see.
Well, a little takeaway from the show.
Yeah.
I mean, from the article, coal was the largest source of electricity in the United States until 2014.
Yeah.
And look what's happened to it.
Yeah.
Let's move along.
Okay, our next item. This is, Tom, I looked at this and I thought, those turbines are leaning. They're not vertical. Well, they're
strong wind.
Yeah, they're floating turbines. I don't know though, because if there were a strong
wind, it could be
wind,
the angle of the camera.
No, it isn't.
You
they're not perpendicular to the horizon. The thing is, I'm a little suspicious because you would think if the wind was strong enough to push those guys around, they're floating, so you would expect some lean. The wind would be powerful enough to kick up some waves, and I don't see the waves, so I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, this is from Renews. What do you have for a title?
High Wind Scotland to trial safe fishing around floating wind.
Yeah.
Just by coincidence this morning, I was listening to Vermont Public Radio.
Yeah.
And this is what they were talking about.
Well, Equinor and Scottish Government Directorate Marine Scotland are working to better understand how fishers can safely operate around and within floating offshore wind farms. A survey to be taken at High Wind Scotland in 2022 will test 3 kinds of fishing gear: creels, fish traps, and jigging lines.
All of which are used to collect squid.
To collect squid.
That's what I learned this morning, yeah.
Really? Well, I would imagine they would be used for other purposes too.
Well, these particular things, particularly jigging lines,
Yeah?
they call it squid jigging.
Do they?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Do you have more on this? I want to keep pressing because we spent a lot of time on that.
Well, the
first
whole
one.
reason why they have floating turbines is they allow the turbines to exist in deeper waters.
Sure. And you want to be able to fish in those deeper waters.
Yep.
Okay, our next item is from The Guardian. And here it is, a Wyoming wind farm. You know, when I look at this picture, the first thing that comes to mind is, Wyoming? Where's the mountains? But of course, half of the state is plains.
Yeah.
So, what do you have for
They look like soldiers there, huh?
Yeah, they do, sort of.
Why is a big company, big oil company, investing huge amounts of money in Wyoming wind?
Well, there's a
There's a lot of wind in Wyoming.
And there's a very short answer, which is that they see a profit in the end of the action. West Wind Express announced that it has almost all of the partnerships, permits, and permissions it needs to begin seeking customers for a 732-mile high-voltage power line to carry 20,000 gigawatt hours per year of wind energy from Wyoming to Southern California. We have been talking about this attempt to do this for years now, and it looks like they're finally getting their selves ready to go.
There's a little side story here too. Transwest is also, well, their parent company is also building another generating station, another wind farm in Wyoming. And it's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Well, 20,000 gigawatt hours is roughly 3/4 of the energy needed to power Los Angeles.
Okay.
All of Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. It is, I think, 3 times what's needed to power
there's
Vermont.
about 4 million people in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So this is 3 million people.
Yep.
3 million people worth of energy. Let's move on.
Okay. Our next item, we have birds in this picture.
We got more of these things, huh?
More of these things.
Yeah, well, I got the same picture.
Today you do. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's the birds.
Hidden actually, I would say hidden in the background, but they're not. They're in the foreground. They're very much nearer than those wind turbines are. They're low compared to those wind turbines too. If those birds were flying around the turbines at that height, they probably would be well below the blades.
They can sense those blades.
Oh yeah.
They know what's
Some
going
birds
on.
actually get upset at the blades and attack them, which is not a good idea. This is from Renews.
U.S. renewable energy tops 170 gigawatts. 170 bigawatts.
That's right. A record 26 gigawatts of clean energy projects came online in the United States last year, bringing the total to over 170 gigawatts, according to a new report from the American Clean Power Association. Combined, wind, solar, and battery storage power represent 78% of new power installations in 2020, the report said. Now, they're saying basically something that's similar to what I was saying before. Wind, solar, and battery storage are 78% of the new power installations, which means that natural gas is at the very, very most 22%. And in fact, there are other things coming online. So the amount of natural gas that's coming online is
Why
low.
is nothing happening here?
You're having a problem with your cursor?
No, I didn't turn it off.
Well,
So it's on,
okay.
but it's not, the cursor's Oh,
Ah, there it
it
is.
is. There it is.
This cursor is having fun
It
with
was
us.
hiding. It was hiding from me. I forget what I even wanted to get it.
You probably wanted to put us on the picture.
Well, whether I did or not, I will.
Okay, there you go.
Well,
So-
since wind and solar now offer the lowest cost of any generation type in most of the country.
Yep,
It's pure economics.
it's pure economics, and the additional cost of having the power they're generating backed up by a battery is only about 1 cent per kilowatt hour.
And batteries are getting better.
Batteries are getting better. Batteries are getting cheaper, and wind and solar with batteries together, if they're set up properly, can give you all the power you need all the time, whenever you need it.
Makes a lot of sense. It really
Yeah.
does. Well, time marches on. We didn't have this technology at the turn of the last century.
No, we did not.
Well, I say that with a reason, because if we did, we'd have had electric cars ever since.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think you're
I mean,
right.
it was batteries that was holding back the development of the electric car. We just
And that was 120 years ago. It was.
oh
holding
yeah,
up.
it was
Yeah.
back in the time of Edison.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we get another picture here of Wall Street.
Here's a picture of Wall
I'm going
Street.
to pull that up so we can all see what Wall Street looks like.
Isn't that beautiful? That's Wall
But I
Street.
want to point out that Wall Street isn't a very significant street, but
No.
what it is has become a metaphor
Yeah,
for,
it
for
has.
the American financial industry.
Thing. My father, at about the time, well, yeah, a little bit. When I was 2 years old, my father got a new job, and his.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you so much. And when the new job that he got was for a mutual fund, which nobody had ever heard of in those days, and you won't hear about the mutual fund anymore because it's long gone. But, you know, this was 72 years ago, 73 years ago. And the company that he was working for had the address 1 Wall Street.
Okay, yeah.
But
yeah.
he was their Midwest.
There is a
representative.
building called 1 Wall Street. It's a pretty
Yeah.
big building. It's still there.
Yeah, and I think that was the building
But
he was in.
most of what we call Wall Street isn't on Wall Street.
Yeah,
It's a metaphor.
it's a
Just
metaphor.
like the city
That's
of London
Exactly right.
doesn't refer to the city of London.
Okay, this article is from CNBC.
SEC Chief Gensler says investors want mandatory disclosure on climate risks.
This
Huh?
is important.
Huh? You got to tell us what you're doing?
Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler says he wants mandatory disclosure on climate risks, and he wants the agency to develop a rule by the end of the year. His comments came because of requests by a large number of investors. This is not a bunch of politicians saying we're going to put the squeeze on these people. This
No,
is
these
a
are
bunch
the
of
investors.
investors saying we need to know what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, Gensler wants to keep companies accountable for their pledges on addressing climate change.
Right.
So talk is cheap. Let's
It
see.
is.
Let's see what you're doing about it.
Yes, that's right. And also, not just accountable, but they need to be able to say to their investors, we've calculated the risks that we have in front of us. Here they are, so you can judge them, because that's the only way the investors can feel secure about having made
And
the.
he's making sure that they follow up.
That's right. Okay, we should probably go on unless you have more about
No,
that.
I will do that. We get some more of these funny looking things.
More of those funny looking things. An offshore wind farm, and an item here from
That
Renewables.
same ship is in that picture.
That ship is all over the world. That ship can exist in many places at once.
Renewables dominate UK power generation in 2020. Duh.
Renewables provided a record 43% of the UK's electricity in 2020, up from 37% in 2019, according to the UK government statistics. Last year's increased wind generation meant that for the first time, renewable energy sources generated more electricity than fossil fuels.
Well, wind alone produced a record 24.1%, and 13% of that came from offshore wind.
You want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
Again, I don't think we're going to talk about this next week, but Nicola Sturgeon, who is the Prime Minister of, she's not the Prime Minister actually, but that's the level she's at. She's
What
called
country?
Scotland.
Okay, okay.
She has been trying to get Scotland to be independent.
Well, so there's a lot of people
They're going to try it again.
Yeah.
And one of the things that made a big difference in this whole thing is the analysis now says that Scotland can be independent in its electricity. It does not depend on in its energy. It does not depend on what's going on in Westminster. You know.
Well, that's strictly an investor's choice. It's not the government telling them they got to do
yes,
that.
that's true. But the fact is that investment choice has made a change in the position of Scotland as a nation.
So Scotland is more independent,
More
able to be
independent than it was. Okay, you have more on this?
Well, fossil fuel fell to a record low, providing 37% of electricity. Gas produced 36, and coal fell to just 2%.
Well, yeah, that's not a surprise to me. We've been seeing these UK
Oh,
coal
we've been
plants.
talking about it on a show.
Absolutely.
There were several periods when there was no coal-fired generation at all.
Yes.
Well, it makes sense. It costs too much.
Okay, we have more coming up, Tom.
Yeah,
There they
we
are.
got the Saturday, July 7th.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
I'll pull a picture up. We got those same.
Funny
It's not
looking
the
things.
same funny-looking things. These are on land.
Yeah, that's right. And this is from Green Tech Lead.
Green Tech Lead. I thought you said Green Tech Greed.
No, I don't think so.
Well, Duke Energy aims for 15,000 megawatts, 16,000, that's 16 gigawatts
That's right.
of renewables by 2025.
So they want 16 of the big ones.
Yeah, I looked into Duke Energy. They're a big company.
They're a big company. Duke Energy announced that it owns, operates, or purchases more than 10,000 megawatts, which is 10 gigawatts, of solar and wind energy throughout the United States from its regulated and non-regulated businesses. Duke Energy has a set goal of reaching 16,000 megawatts of renewables by 2025 and 47,000 megawatts, 47 gigawatts by 2050.
I read a little bit about Duke Energy. They're basically a holding company,
Yeah?
and they own stock in utilities. Okay, and among others, they own Con Edison, which is a big utility covering
Big
New York
utility,
City.
that's right.
Matter of fact, Con Edison is right up here. They've got something going on in Western Mass.
Yeah.
Right near us.
Okay.
Okay, and American Electric Power Company is another big one. They're a consortium. They're really a co-op of power companies, but they're owned by Duke Energy,
Yeah.
which is kind of, how do you do that? But
I don't know, but this is a,
Duke Energy is a big
it's
outfit.
big, and it's big in other places like Florida. Okay, I'm going to go on.
Yeah, we got a nice picture here of
a
a
battery.
Tesla Megapack battery.
Megapack, and this is from Clean Technica.
And it's not a good story about it.
Well, it sounds bad, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it sounds, I think. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, Tesla let me put my glasses on so I can read this thing.
Okay.
Tesla Megapack battery caught on fire during NEO's testing. No one was injured.
Yeah,
That's this thing here.
for the first time, a Tesla Megapack, which is what we're seeing in the picture of, and by the way, I'm pretty sure this is not the one that caught fire.
Oh, no, it's not. I got a picture of the one that caught fire.
Oh, did you?
We can't bring it up.
No,
but,
we can't.
I'll
A
just
Tesla Megapack caught fire. It was at the Victoria Big Battery in Moorabool, Victoria, which of course is in the southeast of Australia. News 7 Melbourne shared images of one Megapack battery unit that was ablaze. Now, it looks like 2 battery units were affected. The fire's cause was still unknown when this article was written.
Well, these Megapacks are about the size of a
Shipping
small trailer truck.
Yeah, shipping container.
The shipping is same thing,
Yeah.
same thing. They're the same size, and they got them. I got a picture of it. They got them here in pairs.
Okay.
And they have a lot of them.
Yeah,
They have a lot of them. This is their mega battery.
that's right. But the fire here was not in an operating battery. It was in a battery that they were actually testing to make sure that it could operate.
Well, they didn't tell us anything about what caused the fire other than to say it was unknown.
Yeah, but they did say that it was during a battery test in a new battery part. Okay, if you don't mind, Tom, I'm going to go on. Is that
Well,
all
I
right?
mind, but I'll let you go on
No,
anyhow.
tell me what you want to say.
I'm only kidding.
Oh, okay. We've got an item from Reuters, and this
we
is
got
a
a picture
picture
of
of
a
a pipeline. And by
Looks
the
like
way,
a pipeline to me.
it also looks like it could easily be in Canada, but it's not. I think that pipeline is in someplace like Uzbekistan or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
Those are probably foothills of the Himalayas there. Okay, what do you got for a title?
TC Energy to use green power to run the North American energy pipelines. You don't normally think about it. It takes power to run a pipeline.
It sure
You
does.
got to pump that stuff.
Yep. And when I put this up on my blog, I got some funny comments back.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean funny like comical. TC Energy Corp.
Funny, not funny,
Yeah,
strange.
that's right. Could spend billions of dollars on its plans to lower emissions. This is so strange. By switching to renewable energy to run its huge network of U.S. and Canadian oil and gas pipelines. Based in Calgary, TC Energy operates nearly 62,140 miles, which is 100,000 kilometers, of pipelines. So these people are moving fossil fuels around, and they have the idea...
In large quantities.
In large quantities, huge quantities. And they have the idea that they're going to do this because they want to be as close to carbon neutral as possible. They want to do this with renewable energy. I got news for you. I don't believe that they want to be as close to carbon neutral as possible. They're pushing fossil fuels. I think they're doing this because they know that renewables are cheaper than the stuff they're selling.
Duh.
Duh. Okay, you have more on that, Tom?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think we need more on that. Okay, we're up to Sunday, August 1st, and we have a picture of Stanford University, and I can tell you...
Looks like a church.
I am absolutely certain that Stanford University does not all look like that.
Stanford University creates a new school for the study of climate and sustainability.
How about that?
And Stanford is no slouch.
Well, Stanford
they're like
happens to
the
have...
Harvard of the West Coast.
Yeah, Stanford happens to have one of the best people in the renewable energy and, the climate assessment on its staff, and that's a man named, professor named Mark Z. Jacobson, who is really quite bright, I think. This is from Forbes. Stanford University announced that it was forming a new school focused on climate and sustainability. The school, which will absorb several of the university's existing units and departments, and it will absorb them and add others. It will begin operations in the fall of 2022.
Well, what it says here, the new school is a response to the scale and urgency of threats facing our planet.
I would bet that it's also a response to students saying, I want to study this. I wanted to get a degree in this.
I think so. Well, the article kind of said that.
There's a big future for kids who are in high school and college now who want to go into addressing these problems because the problems are gigantic.
Oh, absolutely. And they're compelling.
They are compelling, that's right.
And what the article also said, it's the university's first new school in 70 years.
Wow.
So they thought long and hard before they decided
Yeah,
to
I
do
guess
this.
they did.
So let's move along here.
Okay.
Got a funny looking car without a grill.
Yes, I noticed that. This is from Clean Technica.
Tesla Model 3 and Model Y take number 1 and number 2 in world record month for electric vehicle sales.
Yeah.
So this article's about sales.
It's about sales of electric vehicles worldwide. Last month, global plug-in vehicle registrations were up an impressive 153% compared to June 2020, scoring a record 583 units, or 8.7% share in the overall auto market. That does not count the 700,000 plus hybrids that were registered.
I'll interject something here because I was unsure myself, and I'm sure some of our people are questioning what's the difference between a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid.
Well,
I got it.
oh, you do?
A
Okay.
regular hybrid vehicle gets its energy simultaneously from a gasoline engine and an electric motor,
Right,
which work together to power the car.
right,
Okay, this increases fuel economy. The engine also uses gasoline to help recharge the vehicle's battery.
right.
So this electric engine, or this engine, will recharge your battery for you.
Yes,
Okay, a plug-in hybrid runs primarily using its electric motor. Okay, it won't tap into your gas tank until the battery runs out of power.
right.
Okay, so it's an oh my God thing.
Yeah, it's a plug-in hybrid. If you're a person who doesn't drive very far, you know, who commutes 2 miles to work and occasionally goes to the supermarket, you could have a plug-in hybrid where the big worry you've got is not running out of electricity. It's letting the gasoline sit in your tank too long because it can go bad from being in it, you know.
Well, once the battery runs out of power, it has to be charged using an electrical battery charger. The engine does not recharge in a plug-in, does not recharge a plug-in hybrid's battery.
I think that depends on design.
Well, that's what the article just
yeah,
said.
in the
A regular hybrid, the motor will charge, or the engine will charge the battery.
right.
A plug-in hybrid, the engine won't recharge the battery.
Well,
according to this article.
yeah, I don't know if that's true, but I do know
It seems
that,
silly to me.
Yeah.
You got it there. It should.
yeah, I don't
So
know.
you sit there, you let it idle, you go home, have a
Yeah.
cup of coffee, you come back, and at least you can drive your car away.
Right. I know that some of the earlier plug-in hybrids, and I haven't looked at the late ones, but the earlier plug-in hybrids, the only difference was that you could plug it in so you could charge the battery without running the engine. And the engine would charge the battery.
Well, this article said it won't. So.
Yeah, well,
And maybe it's progress, or maybe
I'm
the guy
right,
got it wrong.
they're wrong. It's that simple.
Well, let's move along here. We'll
Okay.
see. We'll take a look at a solar array.
Part of a solar array, anyway.
Part of. Yeah,
Well,
it's a
it
part
might be a full solar array. I don't know. It's
Yeah, that's
solar panels.
those are each individual solar panels, so that could stand by itself.
Okay. What do you have for title?
50% cheaper to generate from renewable energy. Huh?
Now, this is where you go back to that article we looked at the beginning, and because this tells you something. According to analysis by energy think tank Ember, which by the way is a very well-known think tank, the cost of electricity from a power plant using fossil fuels is about twice the cost of electricity from your renewable energy source.
I knew it was more, but I didn't think it was twice.
I didn't either. The cost of energy from fossil fuels is rising, and the cost of renewables is getting cheaper. So we're past this business of grid equity. Renewable energy is just cheaper, period.
Well, as I said it, and I'm going to say it again, people are going to get tired of paying for fuel.
Yeah, they are.
And now they don't have to.
That, by the way, was from Texas News Today.
Well, let's pass on and go on to the next one, which is Monday, August 2nd.
I always like pictures of it.
That's a nice picture
impressive waves.
of a wave. And the caption says, "So much water, but is it safe?"
Yeah, that was my caption, by the way.
That was your caption.
Yeah, not their caption.
Well, the title of the article is Finding Answers to the World's Drinking Water Crisis.
Right. This is from the BBC. We are facing a water crisis. Climate change, overpopulation, and global conflict are just some of the factors devastating the water supply in many areas around the world. It means that 2 billion people, a quarter of all of the human population, are without access to safe drinking water.
Well, I lived in Saudi Arabia. They have no water at all.
Yeah.
So we drank desalinated water.
I remember reading that King Saud, who is the guy that was named after,
Yeah.
when the British went there and said, we'd like to explore for oil, he was actually hoping that they would not get oil, but they would get water.
Get water, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, the water tasted a little funny, but it was wholesome water. It didn't.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, many civilizations have removed salt from seawater,
Yes.
which is called desalination, using heat.
Yes.
Okay. Nowadays, desalination is done using seawater reverse osmosis, but it still costs money. It
Yeah.
takes a tremendous amount of energy, which is usually driven by, are you ready? Fossil fuels.
Yeah. Now, I have an idea.
Beginner's luck.
I have an idea. So I'm putting this out there. I'm not going to patent this. What they should be doing is doing hydrolysis of seawater, because the water's got to be able to conduct electricity to go through hydrolysis, and pure water won't do it.
Pure water won't do it, but there's
So
no
you
pure
do
water left.
hydrolysis of the seawater,
Yeah.
and you do whatever you want with the oxygen, but the hydrogen you put into a pipeline that moves it away from the coast, so that maybe it's 50 miles or 100 miles inland.
Yeah.
And there, you use it to drive in a combustion system to drive turbines to make electricity. And what do you get as a byproduct? It's water.
Water.
And so you dump it all over the California countryside.
Well, they mention here an Israeli firm called Watergen,
Yes.
and it uses air-to-water technology to filter water vapor out of the air.
Yes.
Takes it right out of the air.
Yeah, which if you did that in California and you were successful, one of the things that it would do would be to make the air in Nevada drier. So,
I think you might be able to see a little bit. Well, each Watergen machine can produce 1,500 gallons of drinking water a day.
that's a fair amount.
Well, it's not a huge machine.
No, it's not a huge machine. It's the kind of thing that you could park in some village in Cameroon, you know, and if people need
That's kind of
water.
what the article gave
that's
some,
what they
some
do.
examples of exactly that.
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting thing about it, though. Clean water can be converted from dirty air.
Yes.
Even in urban areas, it's possible to extract drinking water to a standard set by the World Health Organization.
Okay. Our next.
So this is a solution to water problems in a lot of the developing world.
Yes, it is. And as you know, my brother, by the way, invented a filter, and his filter was tested by the United Nations and by the government of Bangladesh. The United Nations put it through a test, and they said it was the best water filter out there.
Huh.
And he has patents on it, but they won't do him any good because the patents can be infringed on by any local village potter and who knows how to do it.
Well, yeah.
And then, but the Bangladesh thing, they were taking water out of the Ganges River and running it through his filter. And it came out the other side with a bacteria count of 0.
0, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
which is almost impossible. They were impressed. And that was particularly important because before the British left East Pakistan, they wanted to make sure that the people there had water that was not from the Ganges River. So they drilled wells all over the place. And they tested those wells for all kinds of pollutants. They forgot to test them for arsenic. So there's
wow.
huge numbers of people in in East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh,
Getting sick.
cancer, a lot of them, because of the arsenic in the water they're drinking. And the people in Bangladesh are very interested in finding better sources of water. So
Well, you can't get any better than getting it out of the air.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay, our next item, and here is a picture of Colorado.
I just am just looking over my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to say about that. The social cost of methane leaked or emitted into the atmosphere is something that they're looking at now for the first time.
Yes.
The regulators are looking at it.
This is from the Energy News Network, and the title for this is almost exactly what you just said.
Social cost of methane changes the equation for a Colorado utility.
That's right. As a growing list of states pass laws aimed at curbing carbon emissions, Colorado has widened its scope, taking the seminal step of requiring state officials to consider the social cost of methane, the primary constituent in natural gas, in regulatory decisions. You know,
So what does the cost of using methane do to the society?
Right, that's what they have to
That's what
consider.
they're looking at.
And one of the things they're going to do is say,
People getting sick.
you want to put in a natural gas pipeline? Okay. Among other things, we have to consider climate change and what the cost of climate change is to Colorado. And by the time you're done with this, I don't think there will be any more natural gas facilities being built in Colorado.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a lot of natural gas facilities being built anywhere anymore.
I think you're right. Okay,
we got another picture of one of these funny-looking things.
Yeah, one of these funny things, and we also have a chemtrail in the sky above it.
No, that's a contrail.
Have you ever seen a chemtrail?
Yeah.
I used to, I've done a lot of work on things that were tossed out of moving vehicles. For various purposes, including seeding clouds. And you can't see a cloud seeding trail from the ground.
I don't think you could.
And I'll tell you why. First of all, there's not very much in the way of chemicals in it. And the second thing is, they're seeding clouds. And the clouds are the same color as the chemicals. Anyway, that's a
As I understand
contrail.
it, the only difference between chemtrails and contrails is that chemtrails last longer, but they don't explain why. They do last longer.
Contrails can last for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
Well, they can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Ohio News Time.
Governor says Ohio wants to be a leader in renewable energy.
Right. A recent bill empowered local county commissioners in Ohio to kill wind or solar projects early in the development. Governor Mike DeWine, who signed the bill that adds more hurdles to developing such projects, says he hopes Iowa will still become a leader in renewable energy.
Is he talking out of both sides of his mouth?
Wow. You're asking a profound question there, Tom.
Well, renewables provided about 3% of Ohio's electricity generation last year, which is not a lot.
It's very little.
Yeah.
I mean, for Iowa, it was like 58%.
Well, we got to see how that develops.
Yep. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, August 3rd, and we have more of these
More of
things.
these funny-looking things.
Well, they're all over the place.
Well, those are wind turbines in Iowa, by the way.
They are.
Nearly 58% of energy in Iowa in the last year came from renewable sources.
Isn't that what I just said?
I think you just said something like that.
A report from the American Clean Power Association shows Iowa leads the nation in percentage of electricity generated by renewable sources. Nearly 58% of the electricity generated in Iowa in 2020 came from wind turbines and solar panels, and I can tell you, it's mostly wind turbines out in Iowa, not solar panels.
There's a lot of wind in Iowa.
There's a lot of wind in Iowa.
Well,
Yep.
more than 5,000 Iowans are directly employed in renewable energy.
More than 5,000.
More than 5,000. The companies that have installed wind farms in Iowa made $60 million in lease payments to landowners in 2020.
How much?
$60 million.
$60 million is...
They're paying a farmer to use,
Yeah,
use
so
his field.
so the farmer is sitting there one day, and a guy comes up to the door and knocks on it and says, "Excuse me, sir, I'd like to put a wind turbine just down the road from you, and it would go on your property. Will you lease me that land?"
Yeah.
And the farmer says,
No, I wouldn't. And then the guy says, "I'll pay you $60 million."
well, it's not 60 million, but I talk to people out there who are getting $6,000 a year from a little bitty plot of land, and the only difference is that they've got that little bitty plot of land that they are not going to be plowing. And for the amount of money, that means that farmer has got a guaranteed income that is very useful for him. And
Well, as
they
we've
like
talked
that.
about on the show with agro-photovoltaics,
Yep.
they can grow something under the panels.
Yep, and here we've got
So you
things.
got two incomes coming in.
Yeah, we've got things growing here under the wind turbines, and the things could be cows, or they could be corn, or they could be a lot of other
Corn
things.
doesn't, well, under wind turbines, yeah, I was thinking about
Yeah, the corn would probably be bothered by the solar panels, but
it grows too tall.
huh?
It grows too tall.
It
Corn
grows
grows
too tall.
tall.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in Illinois when I was a kid, seeing a newspaper front page on the 4th of June. And the picture was of a woman standing next to the corn growing in a field that her family had going.
Could you see her?
You could see her. And the caption was, or the title of the article was, 6 feet high by the 4th of June. Which is, you know, they always talk about corn being 6 feet high by the 4th of July. Right. But in this case, it was already there on the 4th of June. And, you know, they say out there that when the weather gets hot, you know, they say the weather is so hot you can hear the corn grow.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about photoagrivoltaics on the show before.
Yep.
And it's a winning combination. I mean,
it is.
Like I said, you got two sources of income.
It is. We should get going on to the next one.
We should. We got a nice picture here of a mountain.
Of a mountain. Find it. Oh boy.
It's in there.
It is.
And a couple of people are in there.
Yep. And the mountain's on fire.
It's certainly, well, the mountain isn't.
Well, the things on the mountain.
Things before the mountain. There's a lot of stuff on fire.
There's a lot of stuff on fire in that picture.
Howe Ridge, that's the Howe Ridge Fire, and it's in Glacier National Park.
Yep.
And the article says it's biblical. Climate fuel destruction circles the globe.
Yep, the drought, heat, and fires in the western U.S. and the heavy rain and flooding seen elsewhere in the country are parts of a pattern that is seen worldwide. Wildfires are hitting Italy, Greece, and Turkey, while monsoon rains are causing flooding in India. Welcome to global warming.
Well, from the article, west of the Mississippi we have droughts, fires, and smoke. And east of the Mississippi there's flooding.
Yeah.
Impacts of human-caused climate change come as the U.S. Senate considers an infrastructure package, largely stripped of its initial ambitions.
And it came out, and it was very disappointing to see.
I was reading about it this morning.
They just cut so much out of it.
They've eviscerated it.
Yeah, they did, and it's a shame. It has not been passed yet, which means that actual human beings who are going to suffer the consequences can contact the Senate and say, we don't want that bill. We want a different bill. We want a bill that does something.
Well, that's what the article on the radio that I was listening to was saying.
That bill is supporting nuclear energy. And nuclear energy costs twice as much, 3 times as much. You're far better off putting in solar and wind and paying lower power costs for power which incidentally is not less reliable.
That's true.
So what are you doing here? And the same thing is true of natural gas. Was it natural gas? No, it's not natural gas. It supports nuclear. Oh, yes, it supports natural gas through carbon capture and sequestration. What is this? So you're going to take natural gas, which is more expensive and less reliable than solar, wind, and batteries, and you're going to support them by giving them carbon sequestration, which will jack up the costs.
It's all about politics.
It's all about politics. It's all about money and who gets it.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, we got to move on. We're going to Hawaii.
Hawaii. This is Napili Bay in Hawaii. And by the way,
a pretty spot.
That is a pretty spot. That particular little village.
It's a golf course.
Is it? Well, there's a village in the middle of the.
But on the right, there's a golf course.
Yeah,
and on the sand traps.
Just to the left, there's a village.
Oh yeah.
Which is a working class village. So yeah, there is a golf course there. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Napili Bay on Maui. NREL, that's the National
Renewable Energy Laboratory.
NREL software is assisting Maui in a 100% solar and wind operations goal.
Maui will not wait for 2045 to meet Hawaii's clean energy goals. The world's first interconnected grid system to run off 100% renewable wind and solar PV power on an instantaneous basis is likely to be built on Maui. It will have over 175 megawatts of new solar storage, that is solar-storage, hybrid plants by 2024.
That's the way of the future, really.
I think it is. And the other thing is, as these things get put in more and more places, we're going to have fewer and fewer transmission lines.
Oh, yeah. The new grid's going to look very different from the old grid.
Right.
Well, this is in addition to almost 200 megawatts of wind and solar presently on the grid in Maui.
Yep.
And it's enough to, this together, it would be enough to supply roughly Maui's 70,000 customers. Not everybody, okay?
Roughly everybody.
Without using conventional generation.
Right. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, August 4th, and we have a picture, whoopsie daisy, of Washington, D.C.
Kind of looks like it to me.
It sure does. I used
Funny
to,
looking building, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I used to live not very far from there. I was in Washington for a year. Technically, I was living in New Hampshire, but I was going back to New Hampshire once a month and spending almost a month out of every month in Washington, D.C., working in a law office.
Well, this is a very interesting article. A lot of food for thought. I would almost say it's a must-read,
Okay.
and you read it twice.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
The U.S. infrastructure bill is half a loaf better than none?
Right.
And I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, no. President Biden proposed spending $15 billion to install 500,000 EV charging points. In the draft infrastructure bill, that proposal has been cut in half. With similar cuts elsewhere in the bill, the odds are stacked against our being able to do the hard work that will be needed to address climate change effectively. This is a big disappointment to me.
There's a lot to read in this article. There really is. This is an in-depth article.
Right.
It's too long. We could talk about that thing on a whole show.
Oh, I think we could. We could do 2 shows in a row on it.
There is still, and part of this came from the article, there are still plenty of misconceptions about electric cars that need to be addressed.
Yes.
The habits of the past still rule present thinking. Lots of people, and I'm one of them, assume charging an EV should be done the same way. Refill the tank of a conventional car. Drive to a service area, park, plug it in, pace around for an hour or so, and drive home. Doesn't work that way. The idea that you plug in at home and wake up every morning with enough range for 2 or 3 days of driving is still foreign to lots of people.
But it is what happens with
That's what happens.
a lot of people
That's
with
what you got to do.
electric cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could drive, for the kind of my needs, I could drive an electric car 100% of the time and never plug into an EV charging point.
Yeah.
Because why would I do that? And then if I had to go to, if I had to drive to Florida, I wouldn't use the electric car necessarily. I could rent a car to do that. But
Well, the times they are changing.
they are changing. All right, I want to go on to the next item here.
Why do you want to do that?
Well, because it's interesting.
Well,
Do you have more to say about?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No. Oh, I was just busting your horns.
This is Alice.
Yeah, we talked about Alice before.
We have indeed.
But the last time we saw her, she had windows.
Oh, yes, I think that's true. Yeah, and we didn't have an order. Okay, this is from Clean Technica.
Well, DHL Express is buying electric cargo planes from Aviation.
Yes.
And they're buying a lot of them. Well, they're buying 12. That's a lot.
12 aircraft for flying cargo is
That's
a lot
a
of money. DHL Express, the world's leading express service provider, has agreed to purchase 12 Alice electric cargo planes from Aviation for use in the U.S., which means they have to come from Italy to the U.S., and I don't think they're going to fly them. They will be the world's first electric air freight network. Aviation expects to deliver the electric aircraft to DHL Express in 2024.
Aviation is getting ready to set up in Oregon.
Oh, so they'll be made in the United States.
Yep.
Okay.
The area of electric aviation has already dawned. The Alice electric airplane can be flown by a single pilot. You don't need 2 of them. And has a cargo capacity of 2,500 pounds. Okay, that's significant. The charging time per flight hour is around 30 minutes.
Wow.
And the range is about 500 miles.
Okay.
So this is a game changer.
I think so, but I think that there's going to be
There's going to be other ones coming.
and
There will be
honestly, I keep
competition.
expecting lighter than aircraft to start getting significantly into the market.
Lighter, you mean balloons?
Blimps and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I expect those to be, because they
Nobody's
are
talking about that.
hugely efficient. We did an article on dirigibles of some kind about a year and a half ago, and I think we may have done even more than one. But
What's the difference between a dirigible and a blimp?
Well, a blimp is basically just a big bag
It's a
of
gas
air
bag,
that
yeah.
is shaped in the shape it's in.
And a dirigible has a
frame.
Frame, right.
I actually saw pieces of the Hindenburg.
Did you really?
Yeah, I knew a guy who was an engineer at the time it burned, and he happened to go down and pick up this little
So you
piece.
got a few souvenirs, huh?
That thing was made of magnesium.
And is anything left of it?
Yeah, I was amazed. I thought, really? But the hydrogen burned so fast that the fire didn't really last very long.
Uh-huh.
So some of the magnesium never really caught fire. And anyway.
Well, the article says that sue the bastards. Can you say that on television?
Yes, you can say sue the bastards on television. And this is the picture, which is a wildfire in Boulder County, Colorado. And this is an article from Clean Technica. And if they
Boulder
don't,
County wants Exxon and Suncor to pay for the climate-related losses, for
Yeah.
their losses.
yeah. And that expletive that you used before that was actually part of the title.
It was, yes.
Boulder County's brought suit in Colorado State Court against ExxonMobil and Suncor, a Canadian company with its U.S. headquarters in that state. The suit seeks to require the two companies to pay their fair share of the problems they have created. And you know what? If they paid that fair share,
They're going to have to go out of business.
they would be long since out of business,
Well, the county is estimated it will cost taxpayers $100 million over the next 3 decades to adapt its transportation and drainage systems to the climate crisis and reduce the risk from wildfires. That's the basis of their suit.
Yes.
Okay, it says that the cost should be paid by those who drove the crisis. They don't do a thing like that. The oil companies who spent decades covering up and misrepresenting the warnings from climate scientists. They wouldn't do a thing like that.
Well, we know that ExxonMobil was hiding all kinds of material about climate science.
The suit contends that annual temperatures in Colorado will rise between 3.5 and 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit by 2050, which will imperil the state's economy. Now, they got to make that case.
I don't think it's going to be hard to say 3.5 degrees will imperil the state's economy.
Well, I don't think it's going to make it to court. I think this suit has big oil scared to death.
Well, it may and it may not. I don't know. The oil companies may choose to fight it or not. Honestly, I think they would choose to fight it.
Well, according to an article, they're going to try to get it into federal court where they got a better advantage than the state's courts. From the article I read,
That makes sense.
if it goes to state's courts, they're dead.
Well,
But
until
in federal court, these guys, the feds, appoint the judges to the federal courts. They're all.
I think that at some point, I realize that the Supreme Court of the United States is looked on as being skewed because it was largely appointed by Republican presidents. But I don't think they're as skewed as some people think. And for example, when Donald Trump went to them and said, I want to have some help on the election, I want you guys, I don't remember what he was doing there, but they just said, no, we're not even going to think about that.
Yeah.
And I think that the time will come when the argument is correct and the Supreme Court of the United States will look at this and say, you know what? If we keep going in the direction that we're going, the United States is in serious trouble that it shouldn't be in. And if that
I think that's the gist of the article, really.
Yeah, and if that requires another look at Citizens United or something like that, then it does. But I do think that is likely to be what happened.
Well, the federal judges are appointed by politicians.
Yeah. President of the
And
United
what do the
States
politicians go for? Little do-re-mi in the pocket there.
Well, yeah, in a sense, yes.
Yeah.
It's in their campaign coffers, but if it's in their own pockets, then it's a different
Then it's
matter.
illegal, but
Yeah. Okay, we are at
as they say in Germany, we have ways. Well, we're through. We're finished.
We are
done
asking
finished
everybody
it.
or hoping to everybody that they have a spectacularly idyllic week.
Spectacularly so.
Spectacularly idyllic.
Y'all come back and
have
see
a-
us now, you hear?